Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, today we are very much proud to receive at our university the Secretary General of the United Nations, Dr. Pan Gi Muna, the leader of the world's most important organization that regulates and influences global processes of modern civilization, building up the basis for further development and better future for all mankind. Dear sir, it is definitely an honor for all students and faculty of our university, the first university of Russia, to have you here despite your highly busy schedule and enormousness of tasks you have to accomplish every day. But your respected initiative to come here and to devote your time to the young generation of future scientists, experts, politicians, businessmen who are now students of St. Petersburg University is a very clear sign of the attention the United Nations and you personally, sir, paying to the needs and interests of the youth. And we all, as you can witness by the number of people in this hall, are very much grateful for that. So, dear colleagues, please welcome Secretary General of the United Nations, Dr. Pan Gi Muna.
Professor Nikolai Mikhailovich Kropachev, Rector of the St. Petersburg State University, dear professors and students, ladies and gentlemen, Dobry день. Я рад быть здесь сегодня с вами. Большое спасибо. Thank you for your warm welcome. It's a privilege and honor for me to be at this prestigious and very historic university with such a long and proud history of shaping leaders and decision makers across Russian society and beyond. And I'm also honored to begin my programs of visiting Russia for second time this year on the occasion of my participation in G20 summit meeting. I'm going to begin tomorrow, but I wanted really to meet the leaders of tomorrow. I'm going to meet leaders of today, but I think you are more important leaders. I and they will all be gone, some days, some years later. But I think it will be you who will be really taking charge of all the heavy responsibilities. But don't tell to President Putin. Dear students, I think it is really fitting that I start my participation in G20 to speak with the young leaders, you, the students and young leaders of tomorrow. This is a vital month for global cooperation. St. Petersburg is hosting this important meeting, and a few weeks from now, all of the leaders of the world will come together at the United Nations to discuss all very important global challenges, which I'm going to discuss with you today. As you may agree with me, I think we face great trials and tests at this time. Around the world, human rights are at risk. Democracies are threatened. Legitimate voices and movements of dissent are being stifled. People everywhere are worried about the future and wonder whether institutions and decision makers will hear their pleas and act on them. And in Syria, a catastrophic civil war has killed more than 100,000 people. Ignited sectarian tensions caused millions of people to flee their homes and generated instability across the region. As of yesterday, the number of refugees have surpassed the mark of 2 million people, 2 million. There are 4.5 million people who are internally displaced within Syria. That combined is almost 7 million people. That's one-third of the whole Syrian population. They are affected. They need our assistance immediately. The latest fighting has also raised the alarming specter of chemical warfare, which, if confirmed by the United Nations investigation team, would be an atrocious violation of international law. I continue to press for a political resolution. Arms flows and militarization only sustain the bloodshed. It is time for the parties to stop fighting and start talking. Syrian people have been suffering too much for too long, and they need the peace. Even though the G20 leaders are focused on how to develop and recover world economy at this time, but I believe that they will be heavily engaged in discussing this current situation in Syria, particularly how to deal with the possible chemical warfare. Ladies and gentlemen, I firmly believe that we have an obligation to address the immediate crisis in our world. At the same time, we must look to a wider time horizon and act now to take on the longer-term challenges. Putting off those challenges until tomorrow will only make them even more difficult and expensive to resolve. We must do more than fight fires. We must also work now to lay the foundation for a better future. As a Secretary General, I have always been regretting that why international community has always been trying to put out fire. Can we do something before this fire breaks out? That is a preventive diplomacy, which will cost much less and which will save much more human lives. But unfortunately, we have been always doing like firefighters when fire breaks out. Ladies and gentlemen, young people are an important part of the solution of this crisis and also challenges. I often say that youth are not only leaders of tomorrow, you are leaders for today. About half of our world is under 25 years of age, and many young people have taken to the streets when their leaders were not hearing their voices, when their leaders were not able to meet the expectations and aspirations of young people. That we have seen in many parts of Arabs. It was mostly young people and women whose chances and opportunities have not been given. Today, I look forward to hearing from you, your questions, your concerns, and your aspirations. Let me begin by sharing a few messages that I plan to convey to world leaders here in St. Petersburg to help keep the focus of our longer-term challenges. We are in a crucial moment for strengthening global economic recovery and our collective work to build a more sustainable, just, and prosperous world for all. Recent crises have taken a heavy economic and social toll, particularly on the poorest and most vulnerable. In times of economic crisis, they are the first and the hardest hit. United actions by the G20 leaders and the larger international community has made a difference. We see signs of modest global recovery, but it is still fragile and uneven. We need to strengthen our policies to promote growth and jobs. We also need to coordinate our efforts at all levels to reduce vulnerabilities. Growing inequalities, high unemployment rates, especially among youth, and rising pressures on ecosystems call out for the need for even stronger collective action. And so I have come to St. Petersburg carrying three interrelated messages to advance progress on the development agenda. The first, we need to accelerate our work to fight poverty and meet the Millennium Development Goals, MDGs. This ends December 2015. We have less than 900 days to meet these MDGs. These development goals, which were set out at the beginning of this century, new millennium, in the last 13 years, since 2000 until today, the MDGs have proven that international community and international commitment to ending poverty can make a profound difference. Many countries have met the poverty targets, as well as other development goals, many of which focus on the empowerment of women. But these achievements vary sharply across and within countries and regions. That is why I will tell world leaders that accelerating progress must be a global priority. We have only less than 900 days. We have to meet this target. That means we need to take a greater action in the areas that are lagging farthest behind, such as maternal mortality and sanitation. It means doing more for education. We have made important progress, but still there are 57 million young children, the school-aged children, who are out of school, out of primary school, not to mention the higher and quality education. I want all children and young people to have equal learning opportunities. Last year, I launched Global Education First initiative to help do just that. Our goal is for all children to be in good schools with a quality education to empower them to become active global citizens. 425 million young women and men are expected to join the global workforce over the next 20 years. That means over the next 20 years, we have to create 425 million new jobs. So here at the G20 summit meeting, I will urge leaders to invest more in education, training, and skills. This is crucial for ensuring that young people have the tools they need for decent work opportunities and brighter future for them. We have to stimulate innovation, productivity, competitiveness, and entrepreneurship. Therefore, I will relentlessly continue to stress the importance of education. We must also advance our work for food and nutrition security. The world has the resources and know-how to eliminate hunger and malnutrition. Yet an estimated 870 million people suffer from hunger and 2 billion people face nutrition deficiencies. We need deep changes throughout our food systems to help tackle food price volatility, increase agricultural productivity and sustainability, and promote more efficient use of energy in food supply chains. We also need greater support for smallholder farmers, especially those in the poorest countries. As we work to meet the MDGs, we must also look beyond the year 2015 and shape a development agenda for the coming decades. I have given you some examples of what we have done in MDGs, but to be frank with you, by the end of 2015, we may not meet all these targets. The scorecards are uneven, depending upon where these countries are coming from. I believe that Russia will meet most of the targets, but there are many countries in Africa and other poor countries they will not meet. Then we have to carry over this mission with a broader, more sustainable way. That is what I'm going to tell you about my second message. As I said, much has changed since the year 2000. New economic powers have emerged, new technologies are shaping our lives, and new era demands a new vision and a responsive global framework that we call a sustainable development. Sustainable development must be at the heart and center of our future development agenda from 2016 to 2030, another 15 years. We have already begun these vital discussions on crafting a post-2015 agenda that is ambitious, inspiring, and universal, relevant to all the people and all societies. As you may know, I have established a high-level panel of eminent persons. I asked them to bring us to the member states, their visions, and Russian eminent person participated in this. And I have asked the 3 world leaders, and with all these 3 world leaders, they have discussed during the last 9 months. And based on this, I have presented my own recommendation so that member states will discuss this matter. I know that G20 leaders from tomorrow will concentrate their discussions how G20 leaders can give their inputs in this development agenda, which will be discussed from this month, coming maybe 2 years in the General Assembly. We know that growing environmental and economic risks are among the most serious threats to hard-won development gains and future security. Now let me tell you about my third message, which is also an interlinked message I bring to St. Petersburg. That is, need for urgent action for climate change. Temperatures are rising. We need to raise our level of ambition to tackle it. We have to explore all avenues to hold global temperature rise below 2 degrees Celsius. We need greater commitment for inclusive green growth and low-carbon energy systems. Many countries, rich and poor, have implemented green economy policies to promote low-emission technologies and energy efficiency. Here in St. Petersburg, I will call on all G20 leaders to adopt and promote new patterns and models for environmentally sustainable economic growth. I will also invite all leaders to a high-level climate change summit meeting September next year in the General Assembly to lay the groundwork for securing a universal, ambitious, and binding climate change agreement by 2015. The General Assembly has declared year 2014 to 2024, the coming 10 years, the decade of sustainable energy for all, as a way to support this climate change action. Now is the time for action. Ladies and gentlemen, dear students, the decisions we make and the actions we take today will affect people's lives for years to come. Together, we can and must make sustainable development a reality for all. I urge all of you, young people, to stay informed, get involved, and make a difference. I want you to be part of the solution. I count on your dynamism, creativity, and commitment. The world needs your ideas and your energy. Always remember that you are not just citizens of the Russian Federation. You are citizens of the world. Be a global citizen. It's important that you broaden your vision as a global citizen, not only as a Russian citizen. Have a passion. Turn that passion into compassion. Balance this passion and compassion. Seek knowledge, enlarge your horizons, and engage. Help make this world better for all. This is your future, and you must shape your own future with a strong passion and compassion for others. And I thank you very much for your attention, and spasiba большое.
Dear Dr. Pan Gi Muna, thank you very much for your introduction and for your lecture. Well, it is highly important for our students to get from the first hands the thoughts of and messages of the leaders of the world. And it is also important for the university when all our students are leaders in their fields, and I know that they are quite active. So we still have time for a number of questions, with your permission, that our students can put to you. So my assistants can help. Please, we have time for questions. Please pass the microphone.
Mr. Secretary General, thank you very much for your lecture you read to us. And please be so kind to answer my question. Mr. Secretary General, the necessity of reforming of the UN Security Council and the United Nations as a whole is now quite obvious. You yourself frequently mentioned that. So what are, from your point of view, the ways and methods of reforming of the Security Council and the United Nations in general? Which principles should the world community and the United Nations Secretariat apply while carrying out the reforms? And how do you think when any reforms of the United Nations are possible to pursue? Thank you so much.
It was a long question.
Yes, thank you. As you know, the Security Council is taking very important responsibility to maintain international peace and security. Russia is one of the 5 permanent members. Therefore, Russia has much greater responsibility in keeping this world peaceful and secured. That's a charter provision. They have veto powers. Just one country's veto can cancel all this agreement. So that much, the responsibility is very heavy. Security Council has taken such a very important role during the last 67 years. But sometimes Security Council have not been able to meet their responsibility and expectations. This one thing is the current situation in Syria. When Security Council is united, they can deliver. They can meet the expectations and they can bring peace and security. When they are divided for certain political reasons, they cannot deliver. Nothing can be done. This is what we see in Syrian situation. Now, during last 6 decades, almost 7 decades, many member states have raised the issue of making Security Council more accountable, more transparent in their decision-making process. That we call a Security Council reform. You raised this issue. The Security Council reform has been discussed and debated many years. Most recently, at least 20 years. During the last 20 years, without exception, every year member states have discussed this matter, but without any agreement, without any progress. Then why? Because the importance of Security Council, then everybody wants to become a member of the Security Council, then we have 193. There is 193 members cannot be all Security Council members. Then there needs to be some negotiated settlement. But member states have not given in, they have not been flexible, they have not made any compromises. Then everybody agrees that Security Council must be reformed, changed, more representatively, more democratically, more transparently way. That is one consensus agreement they agree. Then how to change, I think they have to find out the modalities. These modalities has not been found. Then I really urge the member state of the United Nations, whole United Nations, to be really practical and future-oriented in making this Security Council more representative, more democratic, more transparent, to meet the expectation of international community and to help contribute to maintain peace and security of this world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Other questions, please?
Yes. Hello. It is nice to meet you here. Well, here's my question. Physical abilities of professional sportsmen have reached their limits. Pharmaceutical products and steroids are able to extend sportsmen's abilities. It can be confirmed by constant performance-enhancing drugs scandals. So, how do you estimate opportunities of sport development without performance-enhancing drugs? I can repeat.
I thought so, yeah. Now, sports can play a very important role in the peace and the security even. That is why in the United Nations, I have appointed the special advisor on sports for peace and development. Russia has hosted Olympic Games in 1980, was it 84? 1980. You are going to host another Olympic next year in Sochi. So these have been quite good occasion. Sports can promote harmony and friendship, mutual understanding among peoples, regardless of what kind of ideologies or regardless of what kind of status one country may have. This is the place they can compete their physical competence, but they can also promote the peace and development and friendship. That is the Olympic spirit, Olympic spirit. I hope this Sochi Olympic will also bring whole people, particularly young people, from around the world and become a venue where they can promote the peace and the more tolerance and better understanding, and which will contribute to peace and security of the world. At this time, I would urge the Russian government and organizing committee of Sochi to pay also more attention on this Paralympics, where the people with the physical disabilities participate. They should also be able to contribute and enjoy together with other people. I know that the Russian government is also very specifically paying attention on this Paralympics. Now, Sochi Olympic and Paralympics, which will follow immediately after that, will provide a good opportunity for Russia to contribute world harmony and world peace. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Further question, please.
Honorable Mr. Pan, thank you for the lecture. My name is Valentina Ivanova, School of International Relations. This summer I had experience of the United Nations sessions, though it was YOS conference in Bulgaria, Sofimon, and even there I get experience of timelines of decisions, making its process, and how do you relax, and where do you get inspiration and new strengths to work on? Thank you.
Yes. Like any political leaders, I'm also one of the leaders. My life sometimes is quite miserable. Personally, I have my family, I have my friends. Sometimes because of my this job, sometimes I cannot enjoy all this friendship with my friends or some time with my family. But as a human being, you also need to unwind your tensions and your tensions and your some very heavy, hectic days. I really would like to have that time as much as possible, but as long as I continue as a Secretary General, I decided that I should devote my time and energy for world peace and security, and also to work for those people who need United Nations support. There are many people, like a vulnerable group of people, women, or sick people, girls, and disabled people, people with disabilities, and minority people, indigenous people, those very poor people who do not have any capacity, anything to eat. I think we need to think about them, and we need to do much more for them. That is what I said. You have some compassion. You have compassion, I think as young people, you have unlimited energy, unlimited power, passion. But at the same time, you must have compassion for other people, for your neighbors, for those helpless people who really need our support. That is why I ask you to become a global citizen. And as one of the global leaders, I am committed. I'm dedicating my time and energy for that until we can say that we are living in a very harmonious world. Thank you. Спасибо.
We still have time for a couple of questions, do we? Yeah. So please.
Thank you for your lecture. My name is Tatiana Kondratenko, Faculty of Journalism. So, and what about my question? One of the United Nations Millennium Development's goals is to ensure that by 2015, children everywhere will be able to complete a full course of primary schooling. But however, the education development rate has fallen everywhere in the world in the last 5 years. And please, could you explain what's the reasons of this trend? What the reasons for such trend are? Thank you.
I have spoken a little bit about the importance of this very important, agenda, education for all the people around the world. I believe I am one of the beneficiaries of education, good education. I know that some of you may not remember because you are still young, but some professors may remember what kind of life Korean people have had, particularly immediately after Korean War in 1950s. I think nobody was born in 1950s. Then all the schools were destroyed by war. We had no classrooms, no textbooks, but it was United Nations who provided textbooks, who gave us pencils and notebooks and all this support. That we were the beneficiaries of United Nations. For me and for my friends, United Nations was a beacon of hope. Likewise, even now, tens of millions of people, children, they are looking to the United Nations. United Nations is a beacon of hope for them, for their future. But still, as I said, 57 million people, children, 57 million children are out of school. Then we have to bring them back to school so that they can have at least a primary education. But you are very lucky and happy persons having higher learnings at the university, this university. So you should be very proud, but at the same time, you must do something for those children, That's your responsibility now. We will do today, and we will discuss tomorrow with the G20 leaders. But after that I think you should be also responsible. So educating and training and capacity building, this will help your country and our world to promote a sustainable development. So this wise investment in education is the best policy for any country, for any institutions, particularly educational institutions like yours. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We still have time for the last question. So please, last short question.
Hello. Thank you for your amazing speech. My name is Alina Kuchuk. I'm studying at International Relations. And my question is in connection with the Syria's crisis. because you said that if we cannot achieve peace, Syria and the world will lose a whole generation of Syrian people. What measure will the United Nations and Security Council take to resolve the crisis and to provide international peace and global security? Thank you.
I think that is very important and pertinent questions for us who are living today. Then at this time, how to solve and how to help end this fighting in Syria should be number one priority, number one challenges for all of us. We have many difficult economic issues, sustainable development issues, but when more than 100,000 people have been killed, and more than 7 million people are now internally displaced, they are out of homes, out of schools, and out from their own homes and places. Then how to help them? First of all, save human lives. Then second, help them, deliver humanitarian assistance. I think there's only one way. There's a political dialogue, political solution. There is no end if both sides continue to fight with the military weapons. There is no military options. There is only one political solution. That is why we are working very hard to convene Geneva II conference. I strongly support Russian and American initiative when the early May, and that's exactly May 7th, the Foreign Minister Lavrov and the Secretary of State Kerry of United States, they have proposed this initiative. Let's resolve this issue by political dialogue. I fully support it, and I'm asked by 2 foreign ministers to convene this meeting. Unfortunately, I have not been able to do that. I'm really expediting and doing my best to convene this meeting as soon as possible, preferably in October. September, I think everybody is busy because of a General Assembly. The meeting, I think the atmosphere is not ripe at this time over chemical weapons investigations. We will expedite this process. At this time, I again urge the members of the Security Council, particularly permanent members of the Security Council, be united and have the moral and political responsibility to address this issue as soon as possible. That's for the humanity. That's for the world peace and harmony. And that's the only way we can solve this problem. Thank you very much again. Spasibo.
Thank you very much for your answers.
Dear Secretary General, thank you very much for your time, for your interest and for informative lecture. We hope to see you again in our beautiful city and in our university.
Thank you.